What if I told you the biggest name in basketball right now isn't even in the NBA? While Caitlin Clark takes hit after hit on the court, the WNBA stays silent. But the NBA's biggest superstars, they're done watching quietly. Steph Curry just stepped forward with a statement so bold, so raw, it sent shockwaves through the basketball world. And he wasn't alone. One by one, the league's most powerful voices are defending Caitlin, not out of hype, but out of respect. They see her game, they see the attacks, and they've seen enough. But not everyone is standing with her. Jason Tatum completely ignored her. Kevin Durant? He didn't just stay quiet, he uplifted her biggest rival. What's really going on here? Why are some of the NBA's top names rallying around Caitlin Clark while others won't even say her name? This isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about loyalty, legacy, and who's really ready to back the woman changing the entire sport. Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear might just change how you see the game forever. In a dramatic shift that's rippling across the entire basketball world, the silence that once surrounded Caitlin Clark's controversial treatment in the WNBA has now been shattered, not by league officials, but by some of the NBA's most respected and influential voices, ushering in a raw and emotional public discourse about fairness, recognition, and the cultural weight one player is suddenly expected to carry. For weeks, Clark was the center of an escalating firestorm, getting targeted on the court, pushed around physically, and often left without support from her own league as the media danced carefully around the growing backlash. That silence was broken not by formal press releases, but by the bold, uncensored support of players like Steph Curry, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, Tyrese Halliburton, and more, each stepping forward with unfiltered emotion and a determination to stand up for what they believe is a massive injustice happening in plain sight. Steph Curry, in particular, expressed a sense of frustration that had clearly been building, watching Clark take cheap shots game after game while the WNBA remained quiet. His decision to speak up wasn't just a show of support, it was a direct challenge to the league's inaction and a call to action that demanded others in the sport pay attention. When Curry, arguably the most impactful player of the modern NBA era, openly compares Clark's shooting mechanics and confidence to his own, the implications are seismic. But what's perhaps more powerful than his praise is his warning. If the WNBA doesn't step in to protect its biggest draw, the consequences could be far-reaching. And Curry wasn't alone in this assessment. Other players like LeBron James didn't hold back either, framing Caitlin's impact not just as individual stardom, but as a transformative force that is actively changing the structural foundation of the WNBA, from sponsorships and charter flights to national visibility and market expansion. When LeBron said Caitlin is responsible for the first chartered flight in WNBA history, he wasn't just applauding her success, he was identifying a moment that symbolizes systemic change catalyzed by one player's presence. It's a recognition that she's not just part of the narrative, she is the narrative. Meanwhile, Tyrese Halliburton, who not only plays for the same city as Clark but has watched her rise from close proximity, offered a particularly human take on the situation. Speaking less as a polished media figure and more as a teammate and peer, Halliburton reflected on the emotional toll that public scrutiny and targeted aggression can have on a player, especially one in only her first year. He framed Caitlin not only as one of the most famous basketball players currently playing, male or female, but as someone navigating an extraordinary volume of pressure, media attention, and expectation. His recognition of her resilience and professionalism, especially under the barrage of external noise, positioned Clark not just as a breakout rookie, but as a veteran spirit wise beyond her years. What makes Halliburton's support stand out is the deep sense of empathy. Unlike generic shout-outs, his words carried the weight of someone who's seen the struggle firsthand, who knows what it means to carry a city's hopes and to do so under fire. And it's not just stars with proximity to Clark stepping up, others from across the league are weighing in. When Pascal was asked about who gets the most love in the game, many expected a routine answer, something safe, someone from his own league. Instead, he dropped Caitlin Clark's name unprompted, elevating her over his own teammate, Tyrese Halliburton, and positioning her on a level with NBA stars in terms of fan adoration and cultural significance. That wasn't just a compliment, it was a reshaping of the boundaries between the NBA and WNBA, an acknowledgement that Clark isn't operating in a separate arena anymore. She's now part of the elite basketball conversation, full stop. Even Obi Toppin, not typically known for delivering weighty sound bites, made a point to show genuine admiration for Clark, framing her courtside presence as more than just celebrity attendance. It was, in his words, a shared celebration of basketball that NBA players not only recognized but deeply respected. In his eyes, Clark wasn't just attending games. She was embodying the same energy, excitement, and mutual love of the sport that NBA players bring every night, a sentiment that speaks volumes in a league still struggling with visibility issues. And then there's Trae Young, one of the league's most fearless shooters, who did more than tip his cap to Clark. He suggested they go head-to-head in a three-point shootout. What's important here isn't just the challenge itself, but the tone in which it was delivered. Trae acknowledged that he'd need to practice harder just to keep up, a rare concession that reveals just how much respect Clark commands among even the most confident NBA talents. His willingness to share the spotlight, or perhaps even concede it, signals that Clark isn't just being watched. She's being taken seriously as a peer and a competitor. And Luka Doncic, another generational talent known for speaking bluntly, delivered his message with surgical precision. When asked who his favorite women's player was, he didn't hesitate: Caitlin Clark. He could have named anyone, but he chose her. And in the process, he made a statement about relevance, production, and professional presence. He acknowledged that it's not about who has hype or potential, but who is delivering results right now, on the biggest stage, under the brightest lights. This wasn't a soundbite. It was a stamp of approval, real recognizing real. Paul George, too, weighed in with a more nuanced view. Instead of offering a simple endorsement, he stepped back to provide context, acknowledging that while Clark's rise is deserved and historic, it's also disruptive. He spoke about the emotional toll on longtime WNBA players who've spent years building the league without the perks or spotlight that Clark now enjoys. He didn't frame their frustration as jealousy, but as a real, human response to a cultural reset happening at lightning speed. His comments were a reminder that Clark's story isn't just about one person, it's about what her rise means for everyone around her, including those who paved the way but never got the stage she now commands. Yet not all reactions have been supportive. Jason Tatum and Kevin Durant, two of the biggest names in the NBA, made headlines not for what they said, but for what they didn't. When given the perfect opportunity to show support, Tatum named Aya Wilson with no explanation and refused to even acknowledge Clark's name. Durant went further, choosing to uplift Angel Reese, Clark's media rival, in what many perceived as a deliberate power move rather than an honest preference. These omissions, in a media environment where silence speaks volumes, came off not as neutrality but as subtle resistance to the Clark phenomenon. And that contrast is telling, because while many NBA players are aligning themselves with the momentum Clark has generated, others are still reluctant to join in, perhaps wary of the attention she commands or the shift in spotlight she represents. But that division itself underscores the scale of Clark's influence. She is not just a player, she is a mirror, reflecting the basketball world's reactions, discomfort, praise, and hesitation all at once. In the final analysis, what this entire wave of commentary reveals is that Caitlin Clark has transcended sport. She has become a cultural touchstone, a conversation starter, a lightning rod for praise and resistance alike. Her game, her presence, and her professionalism have pushed the WNBA into the national spotlight in a way it has never seen. She is drawing NBA-sized crowds, prompting league-wide debates, and getting acknowledged by the very players who define this era. Whether it's Steph Curry seeing himself in her game, LeBron James praising the charter flight milestone she made possible, or Tyrese Halliburton calling her one of the 5 most famous athletes in basketball right now, the message is clear. Caitlin Clark's greatness is not theoretical. It's happening in real time, and everyone is being forced to respond. For every player speaking out, there's another staying quiet, and in that space between celebration and silence, Clark continues to build a legacy that's bigger than basketball. She is forcing decisions, forcing reactions, forcing clarity, and perhaps most importantly, she's just getting started.